And have you ever found this to be a problem or difficulties in just trying to deal on a one-to-one basis with people?
Problem having an image? Never. I've been dealing with it's well, number one.
A certain way.
Yeah, well, no, I must. It's not sort of the kind of image that I put across is not planned or anything. It's just something that's progressed over the years, and it's something I live by. I mean, it's authentic, and it's not false at all. So I mean, you know, I just go about. I just feel that it's a natural part of my life. When I'm on stage, I am like I am, and when I'm off stage, I'm from what I gather, what I feel is I'm a different person. A lot of people expect me to be the kind of person off stage that I am on stage. Which this is what you're trying to get at. Well, I'm certainly not. I don't think so. I certainly have. It's very difficult to analyze it like that, you know. I mean, when you're on stage, you put across, you come up with different vibes, and it's just It's like I look upon it as it's a very theatrical way. I mean, you've got to go. It's not working, is it?
Yeah, it is.
You've got to. When you're on stage, it's very theatrical, and it's like I know that I've got to go on into a show, but it's certainly not plastic. I mean, I really let myself go, and I really get involved. But as I said, I'm sort of, and then when I'm off stage, I'm sort of, I try and be me, you know.
You know, the thing that I found really curious is that I really enjoyed your show last night, and I wasn't expecting to, because I'm not a real big fan of large halls. But it always seemed to me like when I've seen you like in like really small halls before, and it always seemed like
the cabaret intimate. Yeah. Well, that's. I think we've gained a bit of experience. I mean, with the larger halls, and I think we try and maintain that sort of intimate atmosphere. I know what you. It's that kind of atmosphere we like. You know, sort of. It is difficult in a large scale, but what do you do? I mean, you just try and sort of. It just you have to work just that much harder. You've just got to. They're sort of professional things, like you've got to sort of play to the back a bit more and things, and try and gain that kind of intimacy in a large place. But I know what you mean. There was a spate when we really did. We were so used to playing the sort of intimate places that it was a bit difficult to adapt. But there is always that transition point where you have to do a few halls and then work it out. You know, sounds very cold and calculated, but that's the way.
When the band first got together, you started the band, or the band started working more on a concert level as opposed to going around and doing the pubs and small halls.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Everything.
We did that deliberately. We just felt that it would be a waste of time doing the sort of club circuit or whatever, because we had. Even at that time, we had certain very vivid ideas of what we wanted to do with lights and things like that, because, you know, and it's useless trying to do a sort of, am I fucking this up? I think I am, by doing this.
It's just interesting little noises.
We just felt that if we weren't, even in the early days, if we weren't able to put on the kind of show we wanted, it wasn't worth doing it, because I hate this sort of process of doing a show and making excuses afterwards, you know? Once you do a show, you've got to sort of stick with it. And if you sort of do a show and say, oh, well, look, we do a show with a lot more lights or whatever, but we couldn't do it today because so-and-so happened, that's bullshit, you know? And so we sort of looked upon it that way from the start. If we felt that we had to do a club circuit or whatever where all the facilities weren't ready, it just wasn't worth it. So we were being selective. And in a way, it was a case of cutting your nose to spite your face type thing, you know. But we were well aware of it.
You know, I'm thinking more too of like in the 60s, I mean, the way for a band to go was to go around paying the dues and whatnot. Do you think the way that you've approached it is more endemic of the 70s and is perhaps a more valuable way for bands to do it? Because I notice there's more bands who are trying to do it that way.
I think so now, yes, yeah. I don't know. Are you trying to say that we were the forerunners of things? I don't know, maybe we did. We did break a certain so-called trend or something. It's just the way we wanted to do it, you know. I feel a lot, of course, now a lot of the bands are doing it that way, yes. Ghana, I mean, so much. has changed. Gone are the days where you, I mean, look at it now. Shows are much more of a production thing, and it's just gauging competition. I think that's the way. And bands are becoming clever. I mean, they're not art school rejects anymore and things like that. They're clever, and they're getting into the business, I think, anyway. Well, we certainly are, and we learnt it the hard way. But even then, we'd sort of, I think we gained experience, or so-called experience, in the early days by being in different bands. And when we actually went to going about getting a recording contract, we just made sure that we weren't going to fall into these bad categories, you know. We learnt a lot from sort of Brian and Roger being in Smile and how they got ripped off and things like that. And I think a lot of the new bands are aware of how to sort of, it's not just, okay, let's have a recording contract and that's it. It's all going to be peaches and cream. It's, I think they're aware of it being a business proposition as well as a musical one.
Yeah, it seems that, especially in the last 5-6 years, that rock has grown up more. It isn't just its own art form anymore, it's like an entertainment.
Well, it's become such a big business, you know. And yes, and one can't look upon it as a semi-pro sort of career or whatever. And it's just, I mean, I never believed, to be honest, that it would become like that. But it's become so much more interesting anyway, which is nice. It's become a whole project. It's become a very sort of large project that we've undertaken, and sort of there's so many tangents, and it's nice. One can, you know, one feels, you know, the business angle coming in. One sort of takes to that, and one has to be very careful of weighing it all, making sure that you've got all those angles in check. You know what I mean? Sort of. One can't just sort of look upon it as a musical career and forget all the business side, because I don't think it works that way. You've got to keep. Well, this is talking from personal experience. The four of us. One has to keep in check with all the things that are going on. One has to take a hand. You must have key people around you to take care of all those things, but one has to take a personal interest in what's going on.
Yeah, it often seems that rock is like a really good example of what Taffa was talking about in Future Shock, where things accelerate so quickly, and you just gather people around you who are specialists and in their field for a certain finite period of time, and then it goes apart again.
Yeah, it's very hard to find those kind of people, really. There's a lot of it. I mean, trust is it's very difficult to find people, trusting people, you know, especially with the kind of people we are. We're very sort of, we're very highly strung, and we're very meticulous and fussy, and we really have a very hard, we veto them very well, I should think. It's a very, and it takes a while before, and also because the kind of sort of, the stages that we've gone through, you know, through sort of, what with the Trident kind of thing, we've sort of, you know about the Trident kind of thing, we used to be a Trident, and that's taken a lot out of us, and we're very, very careful and selective now on the kind of people who will work with us and become part of the Queen unit. And because we've sort of learned it the hard way.
Yeah, you're talking about being perfectionists. I've read a few times in the past criticisms of the band on stage for being
overly meticulous?
Yeah, to the point of sterility, or to the point where you would put on the same show even if the hall were empty. It's like, I mean, it sometimes seems like you don't need the audience.
Depends how you look at it, because I in that way I would term that as true professionalism, really, because it is a fine dividing line. I mean, you get people who are sort of spontaneous every night, and you come up with different things. There's a lot. The kind of show that we put on is sort of triggered off with certain, how shall I put it, certain basic stepping stones, you know, where, I mean, that's how you gauge it. I mean, you can't have an overall spontaneous show, because then things like lights and the kind of things just wouldn't be on. But that's the kind of theatrics that we rely on, and we want to use that, you know. So therefore, but I mean, it's not true that I mean, if you come and see a show how many shows have you seen? You probably.
This is the first time I'll probably see it.
Yeah, they do change, and when that it's what we try and do is, I mean, the show has a very large framework, but we work within that framework. But within that, there's a lot of change. That's what we're trying to say. But I mean, we don't suddenly sort of go on every night and say, okay, we start with this number or whatever. There has to be a certain format for it.
Definitely
Yeah.
a logical progression in that.
But I mean, I wouldn't call us sterile. I mean, it's depends what kind of words you use. It can be. I mean, perfection can be misinterpreted in lots of different ways. I mean, being meticulous and things.
Is what? I'm sure this has been asked before, but I'd like to ask it anyway. What are you thinking behind the black versus white?
No, that's old.
Very true.
It's something that we tried a long while back, and it's a lot of people might probably think that that's what we carry on, but we've got into this sort of. I personally just like the black and white thing because I feel it works for me, right? And we become. From the Queen 2 days, that was a nice concept, right? And we used it in a thing. But now we've sort of broken that sort of barrier and become individuals, as far as I'm concerned. And we sort of wear what we want, that kind of thing, and the kind of image. We individually project an image that we like. And it so happens that I still like the black and white thing. Gone are the nails and all that kind of thing. So it's just something that I'm very. I'm one of those people that don't like to stick with one thing for too long. I like to sort of do something and say, okay, that's past. And I'm always searching for new ideas and something new because I feel that's what keeps me going. I don't like to be set in one way for too long. And you know, there are certain things that I like doing for a long while, but I still feel that you can do that with a different twist every time. Just so that the interest is there, so that we don't get stale. And so we come up with a fresh sort of show every time. We have to do the same numbers, obviously. I mean, we can't suddenly say, forget the last album, because that's... So you have to keep all that in tow. You just have to weigh it. And but the black and you were asking if the black and white theme was still.
Well,
see,
as far as you're concerned,
maybe as far as we're concerned, maybe we're not as conscious as say you are. You probably are thinking about it. Oh, look, this is the black and white thing. Yeah.
I mean, I just knew it.
Did you? Well, that's not hasn't been done. It hasn't been done before. You reckon? A lot of people. I don't think so. A lot, maybe. Well, you're probably cleverer than most. A lot of the first reaction would have been that I was going to come on in black, say in Brian's solo, right? Because that's the place that we used to do it. Because Brian takes a solo, we all go off, and it's quite obvious that something's going to happen, and we don't. Well, that's the slight change, you know. I love, but that's the theatrics part of it coming into it as well. I love the change. I love to change clothes and do that.
My first reaction was, oh no, they're using tapes. I said, you know, that's kind of bogus. Then, you know, I thought that's a while ago. Well, let's say nobody's around, and I went.
There you are. Yeah. Well, that's. Well, I'm glad you saw that into it. I mean, a lot of people will probably say, if you look at it as a show, you know that we're consciously there to make people aware that we're not bloody well going to use tapes and do, because it just, for us, it doesn't work anyway. You know, to try and mime with this, because that's not what we're all about. And we're the first people to say that if we can't do a number on stage that we've done on record, we will forget doing it. You know, we won't try and sort of cheat with tapes and things. But as far as Rhapsody is concerned, I think, and I mean, you should just take Rhapsody. I mean, see the natural progression of that. At the beginning, we felt, okay, we felt we weren't going to be able to do it on stage, so we did it in the medleys and did it in a few sections, right? And we used the operatic section as an opener. And then this time round, I mean, in fact, it was only in Boston when we were routining. I just only thought of the idea. I said, look, we're not going to use it as an intro. Why don't we try and do Rhapsody as a whole? Because it's now past, you know. We've done it a lot, and try and use it as the number in the middle where the change happens. That way we can, you know, we can say it's worthwhile, and we're not out there trying to play our instruments and miming to it. Yeah. But it's part. It can be utilized as part of. It's still as a structure of the show. It's not taken away from anything. And then we tried it a couple of times, and I think it's very effective.
What has been your, I don't know if fascination is the right word or not, but your interest in the Marx Brothers?
I like their movies, you know, that's about all really. I think it's just something that's started as a very flippant gesture really, and it's grown a bit, and now I think it's just going to die off, you know, something that we embark on, and when we do something, we do it properly, as you know, and we sort of got our teeth into it, and now we took it a stage further with this album. I think A Night at the Opera was a good title for that album, I feel, because it had operatic content, and while we were doing that album, we felt we've got to come up with a title that means something, you know. And suddenly A Night at the Opera, and we felt that sounds, you know, it seems good. At least there's some operatic content. And then this Marx Brothers sort of tag started going, and we felt this time around, you know. And as far as packaging and things, because we were thinking of it from that kind of, have you seen the two packages? Night at the Opera and Day of the Races kind of thing. It works, because we were thinking of it from that as well. I mean, it's we felt we'd just sort of musically, sort of package-wise, we just sort of do it as a total contrast.
I mean, like the graphics.
Yeah, the graphics and things like that, and do that kind of campaign. And we felt, okay, well, in that case, we might as well take the title that way. So we went from a Night at the Opera and to A Day of the Races. That seemed to work.
The next one wouldn't be called Duck Street, right?
Well, it might be called Horse Feathers.
Yeah.
No, I think I just feel that we've talked about it, and we feel we've had enough. It's been a kind of a gamble. It's been a sort of a risk. It's been fun, you know. But I mean, what's the title?
For lay out in the paper too.
Yeah, there you are. I mean, what are titles? I mean, it just depends. We don't really consciously think. Well, it's not the titles that worry us. It's basically the music. And we go ahead and then we think, oh God, we haven't. So sometimes a title will just come up and we keep it going for a few days, a working title or whatever. And then, I mean, like, take for example A Day of the Races. I mean, that's the logical one. You know, we said, okay, what's the next one going to be? And we were, okay, Day of the Races. Oh no, you know. And we carried on. And we thought of all kinds of things, and we just felt, oh, look, it's not working. And in the end, I just said, well, look upon it, say, forget the music part of it, look upon it from the graphics point of view as well. And that seemed to tie in quite well. In the end, we had to make a decision.
There's like a definite music hall type quality to several of the numbers that you write, and that was what really occasioned my question about the Marx Brothers, because kind of coming from.
Yeah, but after that, if you delve a bit more into it, then I mean, if you want to analyze it and draw comparisons, which quite a few people have done, there are a few. I mean, this becomes. I mean, it sounds so corny to say it, but I mean, it was a spontaneous decision, and then we looked into it, and there were a lot of parallels. I mean, the Marx Brothers were sort of, they took a lot of care in their work, and I mean, Roger's got a few books on it, and he sort of looked it up, and it's quite fascinating to actually draw a few parallels, you know, which is quite good. I mean, they did take, they were meticulous and things, and they took a lot of care and a lot of time over. I mean, how long? I mean, did they take doing their films? I mean, and I think that's what, gauging by the kind of telegrams that Groucho sent us, and sort of, that's quite weird too, you know. So there are a few parallels, and then the so-called the film A Night at the Opera, being A Day of the Races following Night of the Opera, is quite a sort of thing as well. I mean, we want to know that we were going to call A Day at the Races, the album A Day at the Races after A Night at the Opera. Do you know what I mean? It just sort of happened. That's the way the Marx Brothers did it. That's sort of weird.
Well, it's also like when they show Marx Brothers film festivals over here, those two are always
together. That's really weird. I feel it'd be quite nice to. I can see the two albums becoming a package for later on.
The singles that have been most successful for you, though, have been like Killer Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Now Somebody to Love, and they've all been kind of in that, a little bit in that music hall type vein. Do you think that
music hall? When you say
as well as opposed to Keep Yourself Alive. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you think that songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, for you as a band, are more commercially viable than, say, Keep Yourself Alive and the harder things?
No, it's just one area. That's just one aspect, just one of the areas of our music. When you say vaudeville, you see, I feel to me, vaudeville are songs like Seaside Rendezvous, the one Brian did, the George Formby. God, what's it called? You know the George Formby ukulele number on Night of the Opera? God, I've forgotten the name. Oh dear. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's the God, what's it called?
That's the one album I'm not familiar with.
Night of the Opera. I'll think about it in a minute. Those ones, and Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon. That I feel is vaudeville. But as far as I'd say, songs like Rhapsody and Somebody to Love are big production numbers, so very, very vocal orientated, which is a very heavy aspect of Queen, which is quite a key sort of factor, and that is why I feel they are. Well, we've chosen them as sort of singles, but I don't think that they equally as strong are the sort of hard rock sort of things.
Somebody to Love in concert is like quite a bit different than the record.
Of course, but it has to be, because how can you recreate a 160-piece choir effect? It's like a Black Soul. Well, there you are. We could have done it, see, but that's one thing that would be wrong to actually, because we were actually performing at the time. You think it would be fun doing it with tapes? It just wouldn't. That is why.
That you didn't do it, as a matter of fact.
Or with tapes, but we wouldn't do it, because that would be silly. Now that would be sort of trying to either cheat or trying to sort of that would be a big cheat. Yeah, it wouldn't be so much a gimmick. It would be just a big cheat. I think 10cc or people do things like that, I should think.
Which?
No, using backing vocals. I mean, there's no point, after having done it on the record, what's the point of trying to sort of, I mean, as far as I know, a lot of the people who buy our records are intelligent enough to realize that all the vocals that are on the record are us. Therefore, I don't think we should try and sort of recreate, they know that the three of us, the four of us, can't possibly recreate the choir effects, no matter how hard we try, I'm afraid, with as many tape loops or whatever. So therefore, I think as long as the atmosphere of the song is put across and the way you deliver it, that's what's more important as far as I'm concerned on stage.
Okay, which would you say gets people off more in concert? The harmonies or the music itself?
The whole show. I think it's the versatility of it. That's the whole fucking point of doing it. If we realized that it was just the hard rock and roll stuff. I mean, we knew in the early days that the hard rock and roll stuff used to go down better. That's because we didn't really mature ourselves, and we really didn't sort of get into grips with the lighter side of things. We weren't confident ourselves to try and do the lighter stuff on stage. I mean, I only started playing piano on the sort of second album type of things. I did one track on the first album, and on the second album I started playing piano, but never intending to actually do it on stage, because we felt, okay, we'll show them that we can do that on record, but just do the harder stuff on stage. But then in the end we felt we can introduce this kind of stuff, and we gained the confidence, and now we're trying to put across saying, look, we can do rock and roll, but this is what we're all about. Therefore, you take it the way we want to present it. And I feel that you can't just analyze. You can't boil it down to saying what are the numbers that go down well on stage. Because I feel that for us, we're going to put it across as this is the way we put on a show. This is the versatility content, which I think is our strong factor. And I think a lot of people especially now, after the fifth album, they know that we do quite a varied number of songs, and they want to hear those, and we want to do them. Is that the tea? Can you bring it in? The versatility. Having seen us last night, what do you think? What did you think about the numbers that went down well? I felt as a show it was like sort of.
Tie Your Mother Down, I thought was really quite strong.
Yeah, but that was the first number and things. But that is it, you see.
Because I I remember thinking near the end, I said, boy, was it 2 years ago, Now I'm Here was opening the show, now it's all the way down to encore time, you know?
Yeah. Well,
It's really moved on quite well.
that's well, I mean, last year we opened with Rhapsody. A quick clip of Rhapsody. You know the middle section we do in Rhapsody where we come on after into the change. You know, there's the tapes, and then we come on and do that. Well, that bit used to be the opener. That used to open, and there you are. We sort of change it around. It's very hard to say. I feel a lot of people now realise when they come to see a show, our show, that they're going to get a lot of contrasts, and from the Now I'm Here, the rock and roll to the breath away and things. That's very new, and I feel that's good.
Was really nice. The only song that I was wishing that you had done was
Long Away.
Yeah.
Really? Where we're going to do it? That's going to happen because this actual repertoire that we do now is very, very new. And what I was saying on stage was true because we've literally just put in 8 new songs. Just having flown over to Boston, that's like, yeah, well, you know, and we've really, and Long Away is one of them, and we just haven't quite, we don't feel it's quite right to put it in, so we're going to practice it a bit more and find, because it's not just doing the song, it's finding out where it slots in as well, because it's got the whole, we look upon it as the whole show, and it's got to come in at the right point, you know, gauging ups and downs, you know, and that's very important. So I think we finally found a spot for it, and once we feel it's right, then we start introducing it. But things like Breath Away and Somebody to Love, oh, that is a killer, I tell you. That is like nerve-wracking time, you know. I go, Somebody to Love, right? Whoosh. The first time we did it so fast because we just wanted to get it over with, but it's forming into. Do you want some tea? Cringe. I still cringe at the fact that we have mirror balls and the smoke and things, but I think within reason, it depends. I mean, if you get rid of, it's the same way as we've got rid of a few kind of clothes I wear and a few kind of. There is always a transition point, you know. One has to adapt, and there comes a time where we will find it necessary to remove certain things for others. Well, but I mean, I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, here they go. They have their smoke bombs, and everybody does that." But I feel certain numbers need that, and until we feel that they don't need them, then we drop all those kind of things. But it's the same way as you say that you're quite relieved not to see any laser beams. I'm very aware of those kind of things. You know, a lot of people use smoke and things, but if it creates the right kind of atmosphere, why not? You know.
I'm thinking too that just the state of the business, there's so many bands, everybody trying to outdo each other, and the media is growing up so much too that everybody knows everything about the bands. I mean, if you care to, and it's like in the '60s, an audience would go to see, say, the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
They'd be doing like, you know, like old blues numbers.
Yeah.
And no one would know.
Yes.
I mean, people will go to see like you people now, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, well that sounds like Zeppelin. That sounds like this, that, and the other thing."
It's become a.
It's become a. It's more difficult for a band to make it today, just because there is so much more.
It's always been difficult, and I think it's getting more so, because the competition is so great, and I think the standards are so high. And that's why you get. I mean, look at the kind of light shows and the kind of PA systems and the productions in shows that you get these days. Before, I mean, I've said this before. Gone are the days where people would come on in jeans and they'd say, "Here, ladies and gentlemen, so and so." You come in, hi there, plug in and go. I mean, it has to be production these days, I feel, and a lot of people are getting into it because people want more. The price of albums have gone up.
Clearly.
They want more. They want more from you.
Do you think it's possible then to still write music today that will be considered standards in the future, or are we all just working in a disposable system?
Oh, I should bloody hope so. I should think so. Oh yes. there is still, no matter how great the competition, there is still movement. There is still room for originality and good songs. Of course, my God.
But do you think they'll live on in their original form, or as like, or do you think you heard Bohemian Rhapsody by Howard with strings and an elevator in like 15? Because, you know, things like that.
Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. It's just, I think you will never get an end to good songwriting. I mean, there'll always be good songwriters and people writing good songs, and depending on how the media takes them, how they look upon it. You get lots of tags, but I mean, I think there is room for. It's getting more difficult, yes, but there's still room for originality and writing good stuff. Oh yes, oh, there's lots of room for classics. I should think.
Plan on delivering.
Well, I do my best.
Why do you suppose, or even if you agree, that British bands seem to be more successful in America than American bands?
Oh dear, dangerous territory. I don't know. More so than American bands in America?
Yeah.
You reckon? Well, there are quite a few.
Yeah, because the American bands that I've seen, especially from the East, that are successful, are taking their cue from British bands, specifically, you know, like Boston or Aerosmith, or, you know, bands of that ilk.
That's, yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know. I just feel that we have. Yes, we are a pretty prolific nation, aren't we? Yes, the competition is. I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's just a trend. I think there used to be a time where it used, a long time ago, where it used to be the other way around. Do you remember where the American? I suppose it's a new era, and it's just the way things change. And I do find that we have within the in this small country we have, even though we have so many groups, within that many groups, we still have quite a few differences in bands. Don't you feel? I mean, we have the Who's and the.
Because England has a lot more history and tradition to draw on for sources than America.
I don't know. I know. Well, it's just funny that I would have felt at such a big place like America, you'd get all kinds of different styles of music, but yet I feel that we contribute much more to that factor than the Americans do. It's funny. I would have thought there'd be a lot of hard rock and roll bands. What you get is, like you say, Aerosmith and.
I don't know, I think a lot of it is down to attitude too, or more the fuller development of personalities within bands.
Probably. I think maybe there's maybe we're just more highly strung. we just.
To put it another way, the only rude interviews I've ever had have been with American bands for some reason or other. I just, you know, every British one has come out well. At least I've gotten out with my skin intact. You know? Why did you decide with this album to produce yourselves as opposed to using Roy Baker again?
Ah, well, you probably asked all that to the other.
I asked, well, John I particularly want to ask. I asked Brian, and he said it was amicable, and he just said he didn't feel it was particularly necessary anymore.
Oh yes, it's definitely amicable. In fact, you never know. He might be even coming back in the future. It's just something that we wanted to try out, and it's always been a joint production thing from the start, anyway. And we felt that we were putting more and more into it, and we just felt that this time around we could try it ourselves. You know, it's just a natural state of progression, and you know how you eventually want to do things yourselves. And we thought, why not give it a try? And it was amicable, and it's okay. He's pretty pleased with the outcome, and maybe on the next one or the one after that, he might come back again. It was a lot of hard work. It meant a lot of responsibility, and you know, taught us new things, keeping within the budget and.
That's right. I think you'd rather spawned using Roy, now that he's not currently working with you, it spawned another whole spate of bands who a Roy Baker production when you hear it.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
time. It's like I've heard
Yeah. He's using all our tricks.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. But that's inevitable, It's like the bond was it grew like it was like Queen and Roy Baker from the early days. It sort of it like we learned from him and he learned from us, and it was like sort of we pitched an idea, so it became a sort of it was Queen stroke Roy Baker type thing. So why not? He's taught us a few things. We've taught him. I mean, I remember in the early days he wouldn't use he'd use a Keypex on the snare. I mean, his snare sounds were very dead. He'd be the first one to say that. We finally got him to change that and get on a liver sort of drum sound and things. He had very sort of strict ideas.
Excuse me, interrupt. Say goodbye.
Do you think it's possible for you, or how difficult is it, to maintain an accurate self-picture of yourself, since so much is written about you? And
It's not easy. I don't know. I think I'm getting a bit sober in my old age. Oh dear. An accurate picture of what I don't know. Do you know, really, honestly, I don't really think about. I'm not that conscious about, especially now. I don't give two shits about if people slander or anything. If people talk about me, because I mean I used to get very paranoid, but that's the way it happened, In the early days, I used to get very paranoid about what people said about me because I wanted to be put across in the way I felt. But then now it's grown all out of proportion. I mean, you can't keep track on all that, and one's just got to sort of. I don't believe everything I read about me anyway, and I sincerely mean that. God, gone are the days. In fact, I get a bit annoyed if I'm not quoted in teasers anymore, or misquoted in teasers. I look forward to those days. But you mean, how do I look upon it? What did you ask me?
Is it difficult in the long run to really? I mean, how much of a trap is it to start believing your own press? Is it an easy inducement?
Well, it depends. It can a lot of sort of misguided sort of opinions can hurt, because you feel that the person hasn't got it sort of properly, but yet people are going to read it and take it in and feel that is the thing. That hurts a bit. But I mean, what can you do? Sometimes you can do an interview and say certain things, but it comes out, totally wrong. And I feel the British trades are very good at doing things like that. You do an hour-long interview or whatever, and then you get a paragraph where they just take the juicy lines or whatever, and it just and oh dear, that's happened so many times. But that's something that one has to. Oh, I never take it that seriously. There was a time where, like I said before, where I felt that it was affecting me. It must never let it get on top of you. You must just put it aside, think about it, look upon it more generally. That's the way I look at it. It's only an article.
Do you have projections, album-wise, as to what you feel you'll be doing in the future? Because it seemed to me like Sheer Heart Attack summed up the first 3 albums, and I'm curious as if your next album will be kind of like.
Very difficult to say. Very, very difficult to say, because we've never ever thought about it in those terms. We basically, I'm sure Brian's told you that, we basically just go back when I don't think we ever write on the road. We've never written on the road. And it's basically, I mean, we get back home, and when the tours are finished, we know that it's in a couple of months it'll be time to record another album. So we basically gather our ideas together. And then we go out, we write individually, and then we get together and then play each other the songs, the ideas, And that's when we try and work out which way the songs are going to go. And the last two albums have been just that. I mean, you know, they've been individual songs from individual writers, and then we've just picked. We gather all the songs and we just picked. It's a long process, a lot of rows, a lot of. Because you know, it's very hard to do. And then we try and work out, you know, what kind of an album it's going to be.
You don't use studio musicians when you do
No.
an album.
No.
Nor, with, as far as I know, the exception of Roger, you yourselves don't do studio work for other people, or you don't play on other people's albums. Do you think that you can sometimes get cut off from
Yes.
what's happening by not doing that?
Well, the main reason for not doing that, I think, is not from the want of wanting to do it. It's that I think we're just so involved with what we're doing. We are very, very busy, and I'm sure I have had offers to do odd bits and things, you know, but I just haven't, because basically I feel that we've got so much more to do with the Queen and within the Queen format that I wouldn't want to do anything else, because I'd be forsaking, you know, there's so many ideas that we still want to do with things. But if, at the moment, I know what you mean. I've done the odd production things, as you probably know, maybe you don't know, just to get, and it's nice, so that I did a thing on a person called Eddie Howe, just a friend of mine who wanted a song, and I sort of liked it, and I went in there. It was like I had 3 days before, on the last tour, 3 days before we started on the American tour, and I said, okay, I got 3 days off. Went in there and did a production, just produced a single for him called Man from Manhattan, and that was nice because I looked upon it. It was very good. I wanted to do it for this reason you say, because I felt I'd like to sort of work on something outside the Queen idiom and see how I could do it. So I mean, it was wonderful because it was like I had to look upon it as I had a budget which was much smaller than Queen's, and it was somebody else, and I had to look upon it, and it was very hard, and it was quite an experience for me to try and sort of look upon somebody else's sort of music and not try and treat it, you know, try and forget Queen. It didn't quite work out because you get all Queen ideas on it, and well, it was in. But I was quite pleased with it because I talked to him about it, and he wanted a bit of the kind of things. He knew what I could do in the studios, and he wanted that on his thing. I thought it was all right. But that, I know what you mean. I could quite easily get into all that. Don't worry. I could quite easily get into all that.
Last question.
Okay, it's just I've got a tight schedule for you.
Try not to
You're
be very long.
You've got John and then Roger, they're all sitting there waiting for you.